Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Now, Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, bark like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
The body of Michael Myers was disposed of in a midnight procession. There would be no tombstone, no memorial. The mysteries were put to bed, and the story as we told it was to fade with time. The events of Haddonfield that created so much violence and bloodshed finally had resolve. I've said goodbye to my boogeyman. But the truth is, evil doesn't die. It changes shape.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again, Halloween version. Douglas Viviani here, sitting with the gentleman across the way that basically looks like that omnipresent jack-o'-lantern himself, David Cohen.
Yes. Fun time of year again.
It is. We've had some great experiences during Halloween of yesteryear. This year, I figured what we would do is take a look at entertainment, Hollywood Halloween style. That makes sense. That was the last scene of 13 Halloween movies, and I'm glad for it. Since 1978, when that movie came out, we saw it in the theater. We were enthralled. It took the world by storm.
Halloween, the franchise, not yes. Halloween, the movie franchise.
Correct. And it was amazing. But since then, for the past 45 years, there have been hundreds of movies where someone is stalking someone else and looking to kill them most of the time with a knife. And so we'll call them slasher movies. To me, I think and hope Halloween ended the slasher movie as a genre, and especially as a genre for Halloween. Because to me, Halloween is more than being scared by being chased with someone that's carrying a knife. David Cohen.
I agree. And even though the original Halloween was about someone being scared by someone being chased by a knife, there was more to it than that, obviously. And, just the whole setting, the way the film was shot, and just it was such a classic. But yeah, and it just sort of became a mockery of that after.
Speaking of the mockery, let's just look.
Have you seen The Mockery? It's actually really scary.
The price of the ticket to go see The Mockery is the scary part. Here we go. Halloween franchise had 13 movies. Child's Play, or Chucky, had 8 movies.
8.
Nightmare on Elm Street, 9 movies.
Wow.
Scream, 6 movies. Friday the 13th, 12 movies.
12.
Saw, 9 movies. Candyman, 4 movies. I Know What You Did Last Summer, 3 movies. Those franchises alone add up to 64 movies in 45 years.
And God knows how much they made over that time. Yes. Crazy.
But I don't know. I think we've come a long way from the origin, the original of all of the, and this is not slasher, but the original of all of the idea that Halloween movies should be scary, which I may or may not agree with, but at least that's what's ingrained in our society. Here's the beginning. I think it's so cool. In 1931, the Babe Ruth of all of these scary movies, we'll call them, Frankenstein. Do you remember this? A guy comes out before the movie plays. The producer, or representative of the producer, comes out on stage in the film and says this.
Mr. Carl Lemley feels it would be a little unkind to present this picture without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, well, we've warned you.
Did you have any remembrance of that when we saw that on WPIX Chiller Theater?
None.
I think they cut that out. It's right before Frankenstein. Basically, I mean, of course, it's PR, but it's basically you've got your popcorn, you've got your ticket. It's 1931. The movies are brand new. It's black and white. You've got this story, this Mary Shelley story, which back in the day, there were very literate people. I would not be surprised if lots of people had read the book from the late 1890s, right? Mary Shelley's book. I think it was 1898. And kind of knew the story. And we're all excited. And then some guy comes out and says, listen, producer tells me this is an odd, crazy story. This is going to be a story.
But, that sounded like it was more for effect. That I don't think they were really warning people. I think they were just getting you excited for it.
Exactly. Definitely. But no one's done that since. Like, that is so, you don't see Spielberg come out before Poltergeist and say, listen, I just want to let you know this is going to be a little bit scary. If you don't,
I don't know. Maybe there's some truth to it, though. Maybe they were, it was sort of like a, half and half, right? It was sort of like a performance to get you excited, but also covering their own butts so that if, people did freak out, at least they were forewarned.
I mean, listen, movies were only like, what would you say? The first movie was like 25, something like that. Movie theaters.
No, we were, so I was scrolling through some streaming service just to digress for a minute, but it's still on the horror Halloween genre. And I forget which, maybe it was Prime Video or something, but they have these 1 to 12-minute short films that were more like illusion based. They were doing like special effects, literally from 1898 through 1903. So just watching those films, I remember turning to my son and I said, could you imagine back then? Like, people had no idea what film was. It just didn't exist. And when you walk into a theater and you see this thing portrayed, like, what can you actually equate that to today that would shock people as much? It would almost be like seeing people who aren't really there walk into your living room, right? They look and sound and feel real, and they're performing something in your living room, but they're not really there. I think that would be the closest that I could come today to just the shock value of seeing a film back then. And especially like Frankenstein, which not only is it crazy because it's up there in front of you, but it's probably really scary because nothing like that had been done before, right?
Exactly. And what you're describing, I don't know how in the early 1900s, I don't know if there were that many theaters. By the 20s, I would say 2025, the silent movies and all, theaters started to be around.
More broad,
so maybe you're talking about 10 years, though. It's still new. 10 years of a theater, So it was really creative and took the world by storm. The question is, and I'm going to look at, for this section and next section, the Universal film series of some of these highlights of the Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman. What did they do with these stories? Now, Frankenstein, we know, was amazing. Bride of Frankenstein, people say, is even better than Frankenstein, right? Then you had the Son of Frankenstein with Basil Rathbone, who back in the day was, of course, Sherlock Holmes. And that was pretty good. They had Ghost of Frankenstein. Now Lon Chaney Jr., who's the Wolfman, took over for, the Frankenstein role. And Bela Lugosi, who was Dracula, was Igor. So these actors were intertwining. And Ghost of Frankenstein's where the Frankenstein monster only listened to Igor. And Igor got revenge. And then you got Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, 1941. Not so sure how great a movie that was. Then there was House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and those, they involved and they mixed and matched, the monsters in all of those movies, and they were just sort of like knockdown drag-outs, almost like wrestling matches. And then finally, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, right? Abbott and Costello vanquished them all. That was the last Universal movie involving Frankenstein. Universal now, I'm talking about, not all
Universal
the others.
Pictures.
Yeah, Universal Pictures. So That Frankenstein clearly, to me, is the Babe Ruth of this clan. And I think now when we get back, we're going to briefly go through the Universal film series and then see what is the future. Now we're looking at the past. What is the future of all of this, of horror movies? Are we going to go to these monsters anymore? Are there different kind of monsters? Are we going to still go with slashers? Are we doing something else? We'll be back on Everything Old is New Again to investigate right here, right now. Halloween.
The monster created by a man they call Mad is turned loose to strike terror into the hearts of men, to shock women into uncontrolled hysteria. This is the story you've heard about, talked about, the spine-tingling, blood-chilling story that stuns your emotions. Frankenstein.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Listen, you're making enough noise to wake up the dead.
I don't have to wake him up. He's up.
I saw a hand there. You don't know what you're talking about. You're all excited reading this legend. Now listen, Wilbur. I know there's no such a person as Dracula. You know there's no such a person as Dracula.
But does Dracula know it?
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. That's a little bit from Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. We just left off. David, you're smiling. You still have a warm... Does that movie have a warm place in your heart? I don't know how you say it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's this Dracula now. There's no such thing as Dracula. Yeah, there were some funny lines in there.
Yeah,
sure.
I enjoyed that. The question is, after we've taken a look at Frankenstein, let's just go back all those movies we spoke about, ending with Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein. Is there anything left in the tank for these type of movies? Let's just look at Dracula and Wolfman for a moment, real quick, and see what they've explored, what they've done. Is there anything left to do with these characters? And if so, what? If not, then what is the future? If the slasher movie is over, what is the future of entertainment on Halloween in the movies? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we take a look. We've got Dracula now. Did you? I guess you've seen Dracula. When's the first time you saw Dracula? How old were you?
Oh, probably like 8, 9 years old.
Yeah. So now put yourself in an 8, 9, 10. I was the same. Year old's mind or body, or Leo, I should say. Like, just think of yourself as 8 or 9 or 11, around that range, listening to this.
I am Dracula.
A moment ago, I stumbled upon a most amazing phenomenon. Something so incredible, I mistrust my own judgment. Look.
Dracula. The very mention of the name brings to mind things so evil, so fantastic, so degrading. You wonder if it isn't all a dream, a nightmare.
I know you love the way they pronounce their words and they describe things.
What was it back then? It was so weird.
Well, before that
accent that everyone spoke with.
It was almost like an affectation of an English, very modified English.
Yeah, very
accent,
modified, right?
But it gave you some like higher class or something, or some authority,
Yeah.
Like if you had even
in the films, all the actors and actresses, they all spoke with that affect. It's so weird.
Now, did you?
What was in the minds of these men?
Did you hear the first guy?
Yeah.
Did that not sound like the same guy that starts the Frankenstein movie?
Yes, it's the
same guy.
Absolutely is.
So now we know in my world, because they did the same thing here. I don't think that was before the movie, but that was in a trailer. I think that's more or less an act. We can put that to rest because he's an actor
definitely
now. The second film he's promoting.
Yeah, that was. I didn't think that was like a studio producer or anything.
Right.
The first time you played it, it was definitely an actor doing that. It was too over the top,
Now, Dracula was scary. Think about 1931. Frankenstein came out, and then Dracula came out. Which was scarier to you growing up?
I think Frankenstein, just because Dracula, you kind of knew what he did and what, why he was evil. Frankenstein he's like a wild card. Like, what did he actually do to you? He threw the girl in the well or whatever, but but you knew he was capable of much destruction, but they never showed it, right? They never showed what he could do. And I think that was some of the brilliance behind it, because you just saw him and you knew, like, I wouldn't want to mess with this guy.
He could tear your limb, literally tear your limb from limb.
Even though it was they never showed it, right?
But the scariest part is almost like the Hulk, and I think Marvel was very smart to do this, and I think they took it from Frankenstein, is you don't know what's going to set him off. You don't really know, and we don't, like, he's in the scene, I think it was the Bride of Frankenstein, he's smoking the cigar, right? And he's having a glass of wine, and he's having a good time, right? But then the guy lights the flame for the cigar, and he freaks out. So you don't know what's going to freak him out. So you're hanging out with a guy that you're having a good time with, and you're making buddies with the strongest guy on the planet, let's say, and then he could turn on you, as he does almost everybody, just like that, you know?
And you know, it's crazy. I don't know if this happens to you, but now in my mind, I get them confused. I get Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein confused with Young Frankenstein.
You're thinking of Gene Hackman when I said that scene, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. But here's an unknown thing, which is very interesting to me. The Dracula movie from 1931 had a sequel. The sequel had all of the same actors except for, of course, Dracula, who was vanquished. It was called Dracula's Daughter. And in essence, Van Helsing and all those characters are still in the movie. And eventually they run across Dracula's daughter, who's a girl that in the beginning doesn't know what's happening. And she sooner or later gives in to the fact that she's a vampire. And she kidnaps people, and she, does the usual routine. And then Van Helsing and some others have to come and vanquish her. I don't want to get into the whole story, but I will say this. This movie, I'm so surprised. Go on any movie site at all. Any. They all give this movie 3 and 4 stars. They say it's an amazing, great movie.
Dracula's Daughter.
Dracula's Daughter. I never heard of it. It's a great performance.
I never did either.
Ingenious. They call it ingenious turn. All the same characters. It takes place literally right after Dracula dies. This movie takes off from there.
Wow.
I am dying to see this movie. I got to see what this is all about. But I think other than that, They did a Son of Dracula, which is absolutely horrible. And those are the only 3 movies Universal did with Dracula alone.
Yeah. And we did a show years ago when we were first starting out, right? Where we did this whole mocking thing about all the Dracula series that they did. The list was like hundreds of them. It was crazy. Yes. But so Universal only did how many? 3?
3. They stopped with the Son. Now, so that's all
they stopped with the Son. So they did Dracula, Dracula's Daughter, and then Dracula's Son.
Right, and that was it. The Son was terrible. Now you've got Wolfman, of course.
Do you have 2 crates addressed to the McDougal House of Horrors?
What's the number on the checks?
Oh, never mind that. Tonight the moon will be full here. I haven't much time. Now listen closely. I'm flying out of here at dawn. Under no circumstances are you to deliver those crates until I arrive. Understand?
All right, so now Universal. Wolfman, it was 10 years now later where Wolfman came to be with Lon Chaney Jr. after Lon Chaney played Frankenstein in some of the later Frankenstein movies in the 1930s. Question is, and that was, of course, Abbott Costello's, take on it in the beginning of that movie. But the question is, did you ever feel afraid of, or did you like the Wolfman in any way as a character?
Yeah, I did. It was more about, the fascination and seeing him morph into the Wolfman, which was kind of cool back then. You see him growing the hair on his face and all that. That to me was really fascinating how they did that.
But the storyline seemed to always be, to me, one-dimensional. Kill me, I'm going to kill people, and I can't deal with that, right?
True.
Yeah. And or he became like the go-to guy, like Lon Chaney Jr. I don't put him down at all, but he never turned down a movie. It sounded like, or any of these, any of these parts. He played Igor. He played Frankenstein. He played Wolfman. But whenever they asked him to play Wolfman in any of these movies, Frankenstein meets Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, Abbott Costello meet Frankenstein, he always said yes. It was his part, which I actually admire because Bela Lugosi did Frankenstein, not Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff did the original Frankenstein really great. He played him like twice, and that was it. Right. Then he played Igor. Then he played a Dr. Frankenstein. You know, like, why did he get away from playing that character? I guess because it doesn't talk, I guess. But he was amazing in that, wasn't it? You tell me.
True. No, he was. Yeah, when you think of Frankenstein, you think of him as Frankenstein, right?
No doubt. No doubt. And the Wolfman, you think of this guy.
Or Herman Munster.
Yeah,
one of those.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, so when we get back, let's take a look at and see, where are we going with this? What's the future of this? Because to me, Abbott Costello basically ended the career of all these guys in the Meet Frankenstein. Abbott Costello, Meet Frankenstein. They vanquished them all. Out of all these, the townspeople, the guy with the silver bullet, the guy Van Helsing, none of them could get rid of them. Abbott Costello got rid of them forever.
Oh, relax. Now that we've seen the last of Dracula, the Wolfman and the monster, there's nobody to frighten us anymore.
You waiting for a response?
That's too bad. I was hoping to get in on the...
I was playing the clip. Sorry, let me go back. And I actually played the clip a little too early. So what do you think? Am I right or wrong? Abbott Costello are the ones, the go-to to vanquish any of these monsters.
I don't know if it was planned that way, but yeah.
Turns
out
what
happened.
All right, we'll be back. Right, this Everything Old is New Again. Here they are. Abbott Costello vanquishing, celebrating the end of all the Universal monsters.
All relax. Now that we've seen the last of Dracula, the Wolfman and the monster, there's nobody to frighten us anymore.
Oh, that's too bad. I was hoping to get in on the excitement.
Who said that?
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm the Invisible Man.
Hi, this is Walter Koenig, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
This is Terrence Winter, writer and executive producer of The Sopranos, creator and executive producer of Boardwalk Empire and The New Vinyl on HBO. And you're listening to my friends Douglas Viviani and David Cohen on Everything Old is New Again.
Hey, it's Dr. Peter Weller. I'm here with my friends David Cohen and Douglas Viviani on Everything Old is New Again. One of my favorite shows, and I may not be the most interesting man in the world, but I'm one of them.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dee Dee Sorvino, co-author of Pinot Pasta and Parties, along with your favorite good fella,
Paul Sorvino, and we are here to tell you that you should be listening every day, all day long. Wake up to it and sleep with it. Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
This is Bobby Clark for Everything Old is New Again, and a nostalgic look to the future.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Death, eternal punishment for anyone who opens this casket.
The mummy. Is it dead or alive? Human or inhuman? You'll know. You'll see. You'll feel the awful, creeping, crawling terror that stands your hair on end and brings a scream to your lips. There's nothing on earth like the mummy.
You say an invisible man? I'll show you who I am and what I am. Even the moon's frightened of me, frightened to death. The whole world's frightened to death.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. Are you frightened to death of this discussion, or should we be frightened to death? It is Halloween weekend. David Cohen, I know you love that maniacal laugh. What are we saying about that? You see that?
See, to me, it just takes any fear I had when I hear these villains with this weird laugh. It just takes me out of it completely. Like, what is that? Why are they laughing after they say that? And in such a maniacal way. Do you understand the maniacal laugh, that whole theme that happened back then?
I think I think they underestimated their audience, these brand new movies, so to speak, from the 1930s. And I think they said they had to show someone that's really evil with this laugh because people, I don't know, it's something people don't do. So we want to show that this guy is off.
He's
and,
off.
and maybe the actors weren't as good as they thought they were. I don't know what the motivation for it. I don't know. I'm speculating, but I think that they did it to show that he was like a Joker type. It's the last time we heard it was like the 1940s, let's say, and then we heard it again in the Joker, and that was it.
In the Batman TV show, that's true.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that crazy maniacal laugh, and then Heath Ledger did it. Pretty crazy.
That's true, right?
So I wish he was around. We could ask him, did he take it from those days? But we're investigating, and we're going to now talk about, in a moment, the future. What's the future of Halloween in Hollywood entertainment? Before we do, I wanted to talk. We talked about The Invisible Man. That's a Universal property from 1933. And they did The Invisible Man, then The Invisible Man Returns, The Invisible Woman. They did Invisible Agent, where he was an agent against the Nazis. He was a man for good at that point. Then The Invisible Man's Revenge. And then, after all that, who put an end? Who do you think put an end to the career of the Invisible Man? Universal.
Well, I mean, I assume you're referring to Abbott and Costello.
Yes,
but they did do an Invisible Man movie a few years back, right? 5 years ago or so.
But not Universal. I'm talking about the Universal ones, right? The Universal only. They had plans to do all of these with the Dark Universe, but those plans are vanquished. So
you've been using the word vanquished a lot.
I'm
curious about that.
This is like
the
show
villains
night.
being vanquished, and then the whole movie theme being vanquished by the studios.
This is literally show like 469 or something like that, and I've never used the word in 468.
And now you're making up for it.
Exactly. Better than saying long story short. He used to say that a lot.
You did?
I felt that I
guess
did.
so. Maybe.
I felt that I did in the beginning. But long story short. So there's the Invisible Man, vanquished.
Vanquished.
Like Abbott and Costello.
There you go.
And then, to me, one of the worst Abbott and Costello movies, because they were a little bit older, was They Meet the Mummy in 1955. Right? But the Mummy franchise started in 1932, and there's our friend Boris Karloff. The original Mummy, the original Frankenstein.
And another character where he didn't really speak much, right?
Yes, correct.
Just grunted a lot.
Yeah. I got to assume he did that in 1932. He did Frankenstein in 1931 and 1933, the Bride of Frankenstein. So I'm going to assume for those 3 or 4 years when he did these roles that he didn't speak, that's probably why he said, I'm done. I would like to act. Can I actually say some words now? You know what I mean? Like he's walking around chasing people. That's all he did.
And did he ever? I don't even know. Did he ever have a speaking role that was memorable?
Boris
Maybe
Karloff?
He had a weird voice. Yeah.
Well, he wasn't he the Grinch?
Oh, that's right. So he didn't have a weird voice. He had a very creepy voice.
Creepy voice.
Very baritone. Maybe that was the problem.
Yeah.
It was like too baritone.
He
like
had that
Tony
crazy
the Tiger thing,
Yeah, he also had that crazy sort of affectation as well, didn't
You're a mean one, Mr. I can't even get down that low. It was a very deep voice.
Yes. He did lots of stuff. He was cool. But yeah, he had this crazy voice. I don't think the accent and the voice was something people wanted to hear. You know?
Yeah.
Although you did see the
Hence
Bowery
the Mummy. Right?
Yes. Bowery Boys Meet Boris Karloff. If you saw
Don't
that
remember
one.
that.
He was in, I think he was called the Monster at that point, whatever. But all right, so the Mummy, there was the Mummy, the Mummy's Hand, the Mummy's Tomb, the Mummy's Ghost, the Mummy's Curse. They
The Mummy's
really
Prostate. That was a very underrated movie.
trying to do some public relations there. He literally some awareness. He kind of did the same stuff in every one of these movies and just chased people down in the Universal. And I don't know, did it give us any insight into Egypt? I mean, it was King Tut's tomb was opened around that time, and that's why this became such a fascination.
I see.
You know,
Okay.
but the stories, I mean, let me ask you, out of all that we've mentioned so far, and this is the last Universal monster, is the Mummy first, last, or in the middle of being scary?
Well, didn't they do the whole Mummy thing again with Brandon Fraser that was pretty successful over the years? They did two or three films, I think. Right?
Those were great, but not they was not Universal. Universal
sorry,
ended
I
all
keep
of
getting
that.
away from the Universal people.
So out of the Universal situation, did you even watch any of these movies?
No. I mean, the originals, but generally not the sequels.
By the way,
Not
Lon
really.
Chaney Jr. took over for Boris Karloff in this
Ah.
franchise as well. So Lon Chaney's played every one of these characters except for Dracula. How crazy is that? But all right, so I mean, we've gone through it. There's not a lot of stories. Is there anything else we could do with those characters? Do you think, or is the
No,
well
I think
dry?
the Munsters kind of put them all together the right way. But, I mean, it's been done. There have been remakes over the years of all of those monsters. So it's possible.
So with that, this is my thought.
What's your real question?
My thought is this. And next section, we're going to turn to what's the future, and I have a postulation there. But with respect to the past, slashers, Universal monsters, all that stuff to try to scare you is not scaring us anymore. There's no slasher movie that's going to scare you. My kids are 11, and Leo's 11, and he's okay to watch Scream. Like it doesn't scare anyone anymore. These monsters, which used to scare people back up to like maybe the 60s, let's say, in those Hammer movies, whatever, they don't scare us. Even the ones that, like you mentioned with Brendan Fraser, they're adventures. They're not scary movies. They're adventures, which are great. They're more archaeological adventures and stuff like that. There's a little scariness, but
true,
they're not really there to scare you, so to speak. A little bit. There's a little stuff in there. But I think the only way to go with these characters, and it's been done, but is to do something like an Abbott Costello where you have comedies with these characters. I think that's the only, and they did it with, as you mentioned, they did it with Addams Family, they did it with Munsters. But if you were to make a movie now for Halloween involving these characters, and I think they just did that with Hotel Transylvania, right? You just make a comedy of these characters. It's all that's left to do, and that's being done. So I think the well is dry all the way through. Maybe you could squeeze a little more comedy out of it. Maybe so-and-so meets, these characters again. I don't know, maybe. But other than that, I mean, it's been done, right? I mean, we don't have to talk about these characters anymore, do we? Or I mean, is that the reason why the Dark Universe ended? I mean, they thought they were going to do this. It's basically done for them, no?
Why did they not go through with that, the Dark Universe?
The Mummy killed it. Tom Cruise's movie killed it. They had tremendous plans, and it was such a flop that I think it's still Universal said, "You don't have the money for this to waste on this."
Okay. I didn't even remember the Tom Cruise. There was a Tom Cruise Mummy movie?
Yes, and the Mummy was a female in that particular movie.
Interesting.
So he destroyed, I'm not saying him, but his movie, whatever, destroyed those plans. They had plans for they had everybody in place, if you look. They had all the actors in place to do all these different roles that we just spoke about.
Wow.
And they were going to put them all together and tie them together like the Avengers and stuff. And further, the failure of Disney to properly handle and produce good movies that involve the Marvel characters since, let's say, the last Avengers movie has destroyed it as well. They're basically like, look what's happening with Disney. They can't get a hit anymore with Marvel. Well, we know, in my world, we know what that is. Get away from the comic book characters, and they're no longer the characters that are going to be successful. I don't want a screenwriter creating another story for Iron Man or something. Show me the stories that you've done for the last 50 plus years in the comics. There's plenty there. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see somebody creating a brand new story that doesn't know and didn't grow up with these characters. That's a different story. But when we get back, let's find out then, what is the new or next thing for Halloween entertainment? Right here, and Everything Old is New Again.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Dad?
Something's going on with my daughter.
No! No! It's happening to my daughter, too.
The devil has one wish.
Wherever those girls went, they brought something back with them.
To make us lose faith.
I believe you can help get our daughters back.
To kill it in us. And the devil never gives up.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again, Halloween version. That's the movie, the first of the trilogy coming up of the new Exorcist. That's Exorcist Believer. We're here, Douglas Viviani with David Cohen, discussing maybe now what could be the future of Hollywood entertainment when it relates to Halloween. I remember you saw the Exorcist with me, I think, with a group of people.
Really?
No? Yeah.
Did we?
The day after the prom, or maybe you didn't do that one.
After the prom, probably.
The
That's
junior prom,
apropos.
I think it was actually. The junior prom.
Yeah.
What do you think of the fact that the director and writer of the last 3 Halloween movies with Jamie Lee Curtis is now taking over the franchise of The Exorcist, and he's going to do a trilogy with that?
I would say it probably doesn't bode well.
Interesting, really. I think the opposite. I think he's going to do a great job with it, and I think this might be the future, because, we're away from monsters, but here's a monster that hasn't been explored really, is the devil.
The devil.
And, of course, it was explored in The Exorcist, but that's 1973. This is going to be a direct sequel to that. And, in fact, what's her name? Ellen Burstyn, who's the mom in 73, is in this movie for a bit as a consultation.
Wow.
And
Cool.
it's interesting. It has 2 girls go into the forest for whatever reason. They come back and they are, possessed and takes it all from there. And this is going to be released very soon, if it's not already released, October 6th, they say here. I don't know if it will be. This is, and the second one's already been made and ready to go. April 18th, 2025, they're going to release that. So, I don't know. I like what David Gordon Green did with Halloween. If you saw those last 3 Halloween movies, especially the first 2 of them, were really good, fresh looks at the story, and took it from where it was. And all those movies in between was so horrible that maybe that was part of it, because the comparison to those movies were something else. But to me, I think this could be something that could really take this to the next level. David Cohen, do you have any interest in seeing this movie?
Not really.
And
unless the reviews are really, really good, like over the top, great. Not really.
Would you get scared if it was sort of, and I'll say but we want something new, but is it like in terms of the experience that you had with The Exorcist originally? Would you, if it gives you that kind of experience, first of all, do you think that's something new, and would you go see it?
Yeah, if it was going to scare me like the original one did, sure, I'd see it.
Like, I don't think the slasher movie, in the beginning it scared you a little bit because it's a new concept, but after all these years, I don't think there's anything to it. I don't think there's anything to those monsters. But this situation, if done right, can scare you, because, just the idea of, there's an afterlife, and there's, this good and bad, and the devil's coming forward to control you here on Earth. I mean, in theory, that's a struggle. It's almost like Freddy in some ways, in your dreams and stuff like that. But Freddy was there just to slash you and kill you. The devil's here to make things worse for your life while you're here,
Sure.
So I don't know. I think if it's done well, it could bode well for this genre. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I hope it's good. I'd like to see it if it's good.
Let me go this way with it. Wouldn't you like to go to the movies and actually be scared instead of laughing at the slashers and whatever?
Yeah. But it's like, for me to be really scared now, it has to be a different concept, like something I haven't seen before.
100%. Which maybe then here's another postulation, and then I'll leave it to you to tell us what you think of this whole thing, because we have a little bit of time. There's a new movie coming out this year, Roswell Delirium.
Urban legend has it the space rock is a place with healing powers that originated from the crashed spaceship in Roswell. So, anyone believe in aliens?
The unidentified has to be an alien spacecraft. We need to find that black box and see what really happened.
They took her.
Who took her?
Will the new entertainment in Halloween surround and revolve around UFOs as the new villain? David Cohen.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's where
That's
it rests.
always a hot topic, something that you can get pretty creative with.
And I don't think, have they really, since the 50s now, I'm talking about now in today's world, have we really done in today's world it justice where aliens come down and wreak havoc individually or on a society?
Yeah, that's definitely been done many times.
All right. So maybe you think it's, I don't know. I don't think it's
But,
really.
But even if it is, I mean, there's always new takes on that because you never know what the aliens really want or what they want to do. And if the movie or the TV show, whatever it is, sort of rolls it out in that way where it's unknown what their intentions are, or even if you know in the outset what their intentions are, but if it's a well-made movie in terms of what the effects are of these evil intentions, then yeah, I mean, that to me, that's sort of like an endless resource of being scared by this stuff. Sure.
I agree. I maybe I phrased it the wrong way because I agree with you 100%. It's been done, but I don't think it's been explored like these other two genres we're talking about ad infinitum, where all the possibilities have been explored. We've done everything with the Universal monsters. We've done everything with the slashers, right? I don't think we've done everything with either of these two. I think there's more can be done with the devil stuff, and I think there's more that can be done for sure with UFOs as a horror flick.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing that's happening now, not now, I mean, it's been happening for a while, is, these recreations or these movies about serial killers, which is another like potentially scary topic. And I'm sure there's a lot more to be done in that area too. And again, it all comes down to, is it well made? Is it a good movie? And does it not only scare you, but is it also good, like interesting to watch? And I think that's a tough combination right there.
Yes, I think also sometimes life is scarier. Real life is scarier than the movies. If you talk about the serial killers and the stuff that really happens, that touches it a little too much because there was that Jeffrey Dahmer special, I think, what do you want to call it? This miniseries on, I think it was HBO. I didn't watch it. Most people said they could not sit through it. It was horrific in terms.
Well, there were two. There was one that was like a reenactment, and then there was a documentary. And I think they were both supposedly very good. I didn't see either because I didn't really feel like being scared when they had come out. Just wasn't in the mood.
But it's a different kind of scare in a way. It's sort of a real, maybe that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a real scare of this really could happen in theory. And did happen and could happen again, as opposed to Frankenstein,
but even
which
like
is not
supernatural stuff, right? Like The Devil or what was that movie that spooked me? Came out years ago about the girl that she climbs out of the well.
Yes.
It was based on a Japanese movie of a similar title.
Yeah.
But even stuff like that isn't going to happen, right? If I get spooked to the extent during those movies where when I get home at night and I shut the lights out, your mind starts playing tricks on you and you're like, well, of course that can't happen, but could it? That sort of thing.
Well, almost like the Blair Witch, it was real life. And then there's this twist at the end, and you go, what just happened? Wait a minute. What? And then like, to me, I wasn't scared in the movie, so to speak. When I got home and I really put it together as to what that last scene was, I got a chill up my spine,
Yeah, same with me. Yep.
So maybe that's the way to go. Maybe it's the aliens and the devil together. Maybe the aliens are the devil. Maybe they combine the two, and that really would be frightening. As it was challenge all faith and stuff.
That's true. Right.
I don't know.
Let's write a screenplay.
All right,
I like it.
I'm ready. All right, so it is really basically what we're saying, kind of, is everything old is new again, because if you really think about it, we're now settling on our thoughts are sort of the UFO, maybe a little bit of the devil, but the UFO. And we go back to Orson Welles' The War of the Worlds, 1938, right? Everything old is new again. We'll be back next week to explore more fun, thrills, and adventure, and we'll go out with a little goodbye from The War of the Worlds, 1938, Orson Welles. Happy Halloween, David.
Bye.
Bye.
Starting now, we couldn't soap all your windows and steal all your garden gates by tomorrow night, so we did the best next thing. We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the CBS. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it, and that both institutions are still open for business. So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing, globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch, and if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian, it's Halloween.
You've been listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's pop culture entertainment talk show. Find us on the web at EverythingOldIsNewAgain.biz. That's .biz.
See you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.